So Sunil, something funny I've observed. So when I visited Bangalore house and there was nothing in the house for chai, and I asked my son that why is there no milk or tea? He said, relax mom, it'll come in 8 minutes. And I realized the magic of quick commerce, and I said, why can't you just plan? This was a year and a half back, and today I realized that I have completely converted to quick commerce. So I was just wondering, where does this leave, offline, which is where we worked? What do you think is going to happen to offline retail?
So initially it was slotted deliveries of what Big Basket or Amazon started and Flipkart, and now of course everybody is jumped into the quick commerce bandwagon. End of it, we must realize that all this is going to cost money for delivery. So in a way, the entire quick commerce is on the premise that, like you said, people really don't plan, and every time you want a specific product, you order for it. Slowly over time, there would be a certain cost penalty, but in the process, brick and mortar, of course, is got impacted quite a bit, which brings us back to the fact that how do you start making brick and mortar more relevant in categories? And grocery, of course, is the largest category in our country, and it's therefore important to understand how will brick and mortar weather the storm, so to say, in terms of being able to manage both the online and also this quick commerce itself.
So yes, I mean offline retail, I've been been part of it for food and grocery and beauty, and I'm noticing something common. Food and grocery obviously is hit the most by quick commerce, but now quick commerce, because it's expanded into apparel, so even your apparel and the non-food related stores have to really up the experiential angle of it. So I was visiting some stores in a mall recently, and the kind of experimentation that they're doing to give the customers an experience just tells me that people are working that much harder in the offline retail space to ensure that they give a hook to the consumer to keep visiting back to the store.
Sure. So one is technology coming into the physical store itself, so that you make the experience of shopping far more engaging and interesting. Second is, like we keep saying, creating experiences in a food and grocery store, which means if you look at businesses like Italy or even Wawa, you find that there is a lot of shift moving in from selling only grocery to actually having food and food services as part of the experience itself. So you have a reason for a customer to go, and then if you are able to create merchandise which is unique, then probably you can differentiate yourself that way. Second is to look at tech itself, creating a more immersive experience when you go into a store. Because at the end of the day, a customer is common across online and offline. So it's quite possible that you or I, over a long period of time, would shop offline, would shop in slotted delivery, which is a day later or the same day, and also do some quick commerce when you realize, like you said, that you've left your water to boil and you're waiting for chai patti to come home. So possibly it will be a combination of all the three. But the key thing is that the customer may still be the same person. It's not that you've got distinctly different segments across. The adoption rates may be different for different consumer segments, but I think it will depend a little more on the need state of the customer when he's going into a specific channel itself.
Another thing which I've been thinking about, sure, offline retail, we need to make it experiential and use technology to get customers back. But there's another angle on people. So from the times when, a decade ago, the kind of people which was needed for a food and grocery or any retail for that matter, the quality of manpower in stores, I think, has to really be improved. Customers have become more aware thanks to information at their fingertips. They know exactly what are the brands, what are the prices, what are the kind of products which appeal to their needs. So how do we ensure that our front-end staff are equipped with the required skills to deal with this new age customer of today? I think that's going to be an important focus for retailers today.
So Madhu, when we started organized retail in the country, the quality of people we had in the front end were very different from what we see today. Currently see. Yeah. So there's been a chase to the bottom in terms of cost and therefore the profile of people you hire. Also, if you look at the classic service delivery gaps, if you see, the biggest gap in India has always been the delivery gap itself. And because of attrition and the fact that many employees in the front end in India come from a very different socio-economic segment from that of our customers, there is an inherent barrier to serve customers well. So there's an inhibition to talk, there's a reason to try and walk away from a conversation instead of engaging with the customer. That can only come about with increased investment in training.
Training,
But
absolutely.
when retailers find that their profitability is under pressure and they're hiring lesser
First thing
people,
to cut.
they don't do training, so they kind of put raw people into the store, and all this leads to a situation where we hardly get any service. So much so that at some point of time when we were running retail, I remember saying that the best service is not to let a customer see any employee of yours. So the only thing they do is to come into a cash till and check out, and technology can help you do that. But the world is also moving to another direction, that there are successful retailers who believe that online possibly may not be an option they may want to give their customers. The classic example is, like I said, Primark in UK and Trader Joe in the US in food and grocery segment, where they don't encourage you to buy online. They say that our can serve you well, stores can serve you well, and therefore they are now investing back into more people in stores. Asda last quarter decided to invest back more cashiers into the stores and less of checkouts because they believe that basket sizes are coming down. So when you don't engage with customers, then they find that there is a flip to it. Possibly it could be pilferage, possibly it could be customer engagement, but many retailers today are also saying that while earlier we used to use technology only for reducing cost through people, less people in stores, now they are actually saying that we want to create their experience in physical retail because clearly that's a differentiation that you can do with an online business itself.
Yeah. So, like I was mentioning, Sunil, the people angle has always been important. So, and I believe that it will continue to be so, irrespective of how much ever AI tries to take its place under the sun. So, to give you a small example, so in say this beauty retail space, which I have been fascinated with and been part of for the last few years, so we have these beauty advisors who come tell the customer with your lipstick swatches, etc., that okay, this suits you, and in India that continues to be a reality. Now with online retail and the increasing spread of influencers who give so much of information to consumers, the consumers are equipped, but I believe that it's become like a paradox of choice. So when there's too much of information, they still don't know, will this foundation suit my skin tone, will this lipstick be okay for me? So the beauty advisors in these stores, be it the departmental stores or beauty specific stores, they now have a bigger responsibility because they have to deal with a now more aware and educated customer. So they should look the part, which means grooming the kind of the conversation which they can have, so the customer feels like they are talking to somebody who's equipped to answer them. And that's something which I feel that the retailers, particularly, I give beauty as an example, the same thing holds true for electronics or apparel or anything which needs a higher involvement from the consumer. So they need to really invest in people so that the customer doesn't feel that, okay, what can I take advice from this store? Like you rightly mentioned, they come from a different socio-economic background. So I feel that training is something which the retailers should not really forget about.
No, very true. I think increasingly we'll have to go back to the early days of retail and say that our differentiation is, of course, apart from anything else in the store, which is your location or format or size or people, clearly has to be back to people because, like you said, customers are more aware, and therefore being able to add to that knowledge by saying that, yes, you are right, but probably you may want to take a look at something which is a little different, which is new. Because what's happening online is, typically, it's not very easy to discover new products or
unless you're specifically looking for something.
And you're aware of it. So if you're aware that there is a new product from L'Oreal in a lip color that you may want to consider a new range or a collection, you may not know it exists. So a physical store is still easier to showcase because, like, in shelving you can actually display more.
Sure.
Or if you have a counter, you can actually probably have a POP which says that this is a new range, and therefore having service staff who can add to that knowledge of a customer, maybe give them recommendations which are appropriate, help them compare across different products, showcase new products, are all the areas where they would be able to add value. Because in online, like I said, if you don't know it exists, it's very difficult for you to know that knowledge itself. And And also the fact that not everything you get online may be authentic in terms of information. Probably the person who writes may not be all that informed to be able to compare probably two different brands or two different products, and it still then falls back onto the person in the store to be able to convince. And I also believe that while information from somebody known to you reinforces your belief, you would rather not depend on information which is unknown online, whereas you may want to speak to somebody in the store.
That human touch, of having somebody who are familiar with, a story you're familiar with, I think that holds, in terms of credibility, I would say, as a higher. Another, while we've been discussing about this enough number of times, I wanted your views on something else, on the back end. So, buying and merchandising, category managers. So, of course, like you said, it was a different breed earlier. So, today, because of the needs of the demand, the business, so all the focus is now on a particular area. So, I find, I could be wrong, but I have been interacting with various organizations across, and the focus is now only on margins and other income and stuff like that. So honestly, the category management that we speak of and we used to do earlier, that training, in deciding what your assortment should be, what brands you should introduce, what are the price points, what are the margins, I think there's a lot of work needs to be done. And you go into any kind of a store, whether it is a pharma retail or a beauty retail or a grocery store, yes, there is definitely a science, I'm not denying that, but I feel that there needs to be more investment in the back end in terms of, simple things like a planogramming, assortment planning, how do you plan your stock, what are the kind of stock turns you should look at. I feel that's something in the firefighting nature of the business, that's something which is being missed out. I mean, I have seen it in my team in the past, and that's something, as if you ask me what I would want, people in the back end, I think training in that, some kind of, any training is good. So that's something I feel is important. What are your views on that?
So it's by and far, because of the pressures of performance for a month or a quarter, it's becoming more transactional, both from your supplier perspective and from a merchandising perspective. But it always helps to kind of have a longer term view on what you're looking at, and therefore be able to stabilize your relationship with suppliers in kind of understanding what are the category gaps, what are the category growths that you would want to do, what are the customer expectations of sales, revenue, etc. And I agree with you that with more technology and more access to data, today many retailers also have access to both their online and offline data. And when you have a loyalty program in offline, and when you have an online business, the key is, even today many retailers haven't integrated both these data, so they don't understand, while they have data about their offline through loyalty, they have very little data about integrating this data to understand, is it the same customer who bought an online? So even doing small things like extending a loyalty to online possibly, or integrating both to understand what's the monthly basket or purchase of goods over a month, a quarter or a year, you need to kind of analyze it. So with more data, you find when you become more transactional, you're using the data less. So you're just kind of looking at the numbers for the day or for the week or a month, and not looking at customer engagement, lifetime value, as we keep talking about. All of those seem to be given a pass over time. And therefore, it's even more important now to look at, as much as attrition was a challenge in the front end, I think it's also true for the back end too. And the key back end functions are, apart from buying and merchandising, is also supply chain logistics, and also having people who understand this well from an overall business perspective would help, I guess, merge the business strategy with the financial expectations of the business itself.
It's just to kind of end this conversation, one interesting point, taking off from what you said about omni-channel. I've noticed, and this I'm talking as a customer now, some of the, I'm not going to name the brands, some of the large retailers who are behemoths, but primarily in the brick and mortar space, and some of my favorite retailers, they haven't really transitioned to being a truly omni-channel. And the gift card part which you said, it's like if you buy a gift card online, you cannot redeem it offline and vice versa. If you buy a product in a store and you want to return it, even say in an airport store, it's in a different system back end. So while there's a lot of talk about omni-channel, I think we still have a long way to go, and this is my feeling, that retailers, especially the large ones, continue to treat their online team in a different silo and the offline in a different silo. And unless they integrate the team and therefore the buying, the assortment, the inventory pool, etc., the true omni-channel is going to still be some way away. While everybody loves to talk about it, I think there's a lot more work needs to be done.
Right. So the word is used loosely to understand what omni-channel means, but omni-channel finally is when you're able to deliver a similar experience, be it buying or returns or transactions in online and offline. Today, I think for most people, online is just one channel through which they flush out a lot of merchandise, and therefore they look at it as riding the bandwagon, listing their brands. If you're a brand owner in an online platform like any of the marketplaces that you have, or the fact that you look at your own online, they are not integrated. Therefore, end of the day, businesses will suffer in the longer run, and also customers, because they're not getting even a small thing like the merchandise that you get in different channels today are becoming very, very different. So what you see of a brand in online is very different from what you see of a brand in offline. What you see in a type of retail outlet in offline varies across. An exclusive store carries a different range, a department store carries a different range. So to me, sometimes it may not really gel well, because the customer is still the same person who's going across. So he would rather look at as wide a range as possible to choose from, especially if it's a less frequently bought item, emotional involvement is high and things like that. So it's good to kind of understand how do you integrate experiences as much as possible, if not your inventory completely, but at least to a larger extent.
So exciting times continue to be in retail.